Hi everybody, it's me, it's Chrissy Mack. Happy Halloween! Yay! It is my favorite holiday of the year. I only celebrate 3 and this is the main one I celebrate. COVID will not cancel my day. Although Amazon is making it difficult for me. Because let me tell y'all, I was going to be Maleficent this year. Anyone who knows me really well knows that I dislike Disney in general. But there are 2 Disney films that I actually liked growing up. And one was Sleeping Beauty. I hated Aurora. I thought she was an idiot. I was not a fan. But I loved Maleficent because she was a strong woman. Clearly they had did something more than just like not invite her to a party to make her mad. 3, she was obviously patient because you don't cast a death spell for no reason. That bitch was waiting. That had been stewing for years. 4, she had no problem doing her own thing with her minions just being like, go, I'm fine. And 5, she could turn into a dragon. What? My whole costume didn't get here in time, and I'm pretty bummed about it. No sense in being Maleficent with no horns, right? No one will know who the hell you are. So, since I have this beautiful feather collar that I purchased, it goes all the way around and it has green undertones with the black. I have feather cuffs that will be going from here up to my fingers that are black with a green undertone. I've got a black dress. I have a black cape. I'm glad I didn't buy anything with purple in it. I'm thinking I'm going to do a similar makeup than what that I would have done for Maleficent. Just not 100%. Holy crap, what a difference, right? Threw on just my base stuff and some eyebrows and probably took a good 10 years off my face. It occurred to me today that I'm really bad about not listing what products I use. So I'm just going to take a second right now to let you know what I'm using currently. So the first thing that I use Yenza Color and Face Tone Up Primer. So far I really like this. It has a great glow to it. It also has an SPF, which makes me happy. And it also has a little bit of color correction in it. So now I can throw that in my bag. Next, because usually as I go, I'm just throwing stuff in the bag. Next, I use Tarte Shape Tape as my concealer under my eyes for my zits because it's Halloween and my uterus decided to join the party and was like, for Halloween, I'm going as a crime scene in your pants. Also, it made my face explode. So I had to take care of the dark circles under my eyes, which I'll always have some sort of dark circle under my eye. It doesn't matter how many products that I throw on top of it. After a while, it just looks cakey. I have been that way since I was a little kid. So, but compared to what it looks like with no makeup, I think it looks great. This is a great product. I would suggest it to anybody. Next, I recently tried NARS out because I'd heard so many great things about it. I have been using Tarte forever and ever, amen. But I actually got this on sale, so I decided to try it out. It is NARS Radiant Natural Longwear Foundation. My shade is L4.5. And so far, I've actually been really happy with it. It's lightweight. It's really easy to work into the skin. It blends well with everything. So I would definitely recommend trying it out. Before that was always the Tarte Amazonian clay that I use because I actually need a pretty full-on foundation. Next product that I use was Trestique. And it is a color contour cheek stick. That's the color. It's Brazilian bronze. It is really simple to use. It is a cream contour. I'm using mostly, I used all creams pretty much on my face today just because costuming. But something cool about this, it does have a brush that comes with it. I don't use the brush because it's small. It blends fine. It just takes much longer than my beauty blender, so whatever. All right, next thing that I used on my face. I used both colors in here, both Aurora and Borealis. And this is from Lovecraft Beauty. This is their highlighter palette. It's a duo palette. And I used Aurora here, here, and then I use Borealis here, 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 here. And just kind of like everywhere else that you would put highlighter. I like using the lighter highlighter under my eyes because, again, they're always going to be dark, and it brings out a little bit more lightness. So totally recommend that product. The next thing that I used is my blush, and it's a very simple blush. It's a highlighting blush, and it's by Siete London, and it's called Pinch Me. Super cute. Again, it's a blusher with a highlighter built in, so it makes you have even more shine. And since this is Halloween, and I have decided I'm going with a witchy theme, I want to have as much shimmer going on as I can. The next thing that I used is a bronzer. It's by Ofra, and it's a bronzer Americano. And I mean, it's bronzer. The finishing powder that I used is by Tarte, and it is the Shape Tape setting powder by Tarte. Super easy. Even has a little fluffy in there if you want to use that. My eyebrows, my friends, are courtesy of Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's Brow Wiz in soft brown. The shape that I've chosen is a very basic, easy shape. I was trying to go a little bit like more arched, and yeah, it didn't work out. And last but not least, because I have already primed my eyes, I use the NYX eyeshadow base. You can get this for like $3. It's so cheap, and it's so much better than the bougie stuff that's out there. Just letting you know. So, all right, I just wanted to take a quick minute to go through the products that made me look like this compared to what I was looking at like at the beginning of the video. Now I'm going to go through my palettes really quickly and figure out what I'm going to do with my face, since I still don't know. Okay, so I have dug out 5 different palettes that I'm going to dig through and decide whether or not to use anything out of them, because I'm not 100% sure yet what I want to do. Since I have all of the feathers, and I do have a feather headpiece, I'm thinking about just being like a bird witch. And since the feathers have like a green undertone with them, I'm thinking I'm going to focus on like greens, dark purples, and blacks. So hopefully I won't look like I have bruises on my eyes when I'm done. We'll see. So first things first, let me go ahead and put like a base color on for things to stick to. All right, as far as the ghost stories portion of today, I was told recently people really enjoyed hearing my personal experiences more than just ghost stories. So I decided that today I would talk about a case that led into another case several years ago. And out of respect for the privacy of everyone that was involved, I will use no names, no locations, no nothing on this one. Just because it was a private case that I was called in on. And then it was a good friend I ended up having to do the follow-up with. So, once upon a time, I was called out to a house where they were reporting to me that they were hearing footsteps at night, that they were having trouble sleeping. They were concerned about their child because their child had started saying that they were seeing things that they couldn't explain. Their child wasn't wanting to sleep in their room anymore. And it was getting less and less peaceful for them in their home. And so my job, if someone calls me out for that, usually I'm the sensitive that is in the group, and then I come out with a skeptic. The skeptic is who ended up being the person that I was called for later. But for this particular case, we went out. He conducted the interview with the family while I did a quick walkthrough of the house and just felt it out, felt what it's hard to explain when you're a sensitive how it works. Sometimes for me, I hear things, sometimes I see things, sometimes I just simply feel things. And a lot of the time what we would do is, based on what I felt, saw, or heard, we would set up things for the skeptic of the two of us to set up cameras and recorders in those areas to see if what I felt was accurate, and also, to see if it matched up with what the client was, talking about, because I was never present for the actual interview with the family, or the clients rather. I preferred it that way. I like reading cold. I don't want to know anything about the location before I go, because again, it revalidates what I see or feel. So, also my cat is really active right now. She's being very playful. So if you hear weird scratching, or see her dash behind me, that's just Ollie. My boyfriend swears she doesn't exist sometimes. She very much does today. Also, if you hear hammering or anything in the background, this adorable dad and his daughter are my neighbors, and they're out back working on something, and I think it's Tinder. Anyway, so back to the story. We go into this home, and I felt the presence of a woman, an older woman in the house, and she was prevalent in the kitchen, and the child's bedroom especially is where I felt her. And I also felt the presence of a man in the master bedroom and bath. And I also could feel almost like a residual walking up and down a hallway of the house. And that was odd because this was a newer development. It was a newer subdivision. So when you get residual type of energy somewhere like that, it's like, well, I mean, it's something that was here before the house was built. It's just here. So yeah, that's what I felt. And my partner interviewed the family, and lo and behold, the things that I felt were actually what they had to talk about. I'm loving this Nomad Berlin Underground palette, by the way. So after the initial interview and my walkthrough, we set up camp like he liked to do, because he's the scientist of the two of us, to see what we could get on film and recorded. And we did get some things recorded, the footsteps in particular, and some voices. I wish I still had those old CDs and tapes. That would be great, but those have gotten lost over the years. We didn't get any photographic evidence, just that, and we did get some voices. The male presence that I felt wasn't very pleasant. The female presence was protective. I said from the get-go to my partner, I was like, the female that's here is a family member, and is just here to protect them. When this is over, I know they've asked for a cleansing, but I'm gonna recommend not cleansing her, because she's not the problem. It's this man that is. So we set up, family left, they were gone overnight. We just set things up, and the way I liked to do it is, once we were set up, I didn't hang out. I got what I needed already. And so we like to leave things recording with no one around. I don't like provoking. That's not my style. If something chooses to talk to me, it will, but I just don't like to. So we would always leave things going without us around for a good couple of hours. And so I know that, I remember he and I went and had like Denny's, I think, and took our time eating, because I was just like, give it some time. I don't think that we're going to get anything on camera or video, at least for the first hour or so that we're gone. So we stayed gone, I'd say 2.5 hours or so. Easy. And then he was like, I want to go back. I said, okay. So we went back, and when we were there, I felt the woman. And again, she was very, very protective of the space, and not just the space, but the people in the space. And I asked her who she was, if, because I wanted to see if she would speak to me. And she let me know that she was actually the grandmother of one of the occupants of the house. And I was like, well, we're not here to do her any harm, you any harm. And I'm not asking you to leave. I think it's wonderful that you're here and you're looking after your great grandson and your granddaughter. So after I made contact with her, and she was lovely, as soon as she realized we weren't there to bother the family and we were there to help the family, her energy just kind of went, it wasn't an issue anymore. The male, on the other hand, he was at the rear of the house. Again, he really liked the master bedroom and bath. That's where he liked to hide. But he also liked to hide in the son's bedroom, which would make sense for why the little boy kept asking to sleep with his parents, because he was, I want to say 10 at the time. So the first time I encountered this man, he wouldn't tell me his name. He wouldn't tell me why he was there. He just wanted me out. And he said over and over he wanted me out. And I said, well, I'm not going anywhere. And you don't belong here. This isn't your home. The people that are here don't want you here. You need to leave. There's a light. You can go to the light and find peace. Your loved ones are waiting for you there, but you need to go. Well, the more that I pushed, he kept going from place to place in the house to get away from me. And of course, my partner was following me from place to place to place to place as I was trying to reason with this man. And it occurred to me that this man wasn't a man within about 10-15 minutes. This was something posing as a man. So I told my partner I needed to cleanse the home. And I went outside and I got the supplies I needed in order to do so. And my partner was like, okay, get what you need, and stayed in the house. And I wish I had told him to come with me. That was my bad. That was my mistake. And if you hear that, that's, like I said, my neighbors. That was my mistake. That's my bad. Because when I go in anywhere where there could potentially be anything that could harm me or affect me in any kind of way, I take a lot of measures to protect myself. I do a cleanse of myself beforehand. I do protection spells on myself. I wear protective amulets. I ask people that are with me to do the same, at least wear amulets that I make for them. Let me protect them as well. And my partner that was with me was wearing, a protected amulet, but that doesn't work with all entities. Unfortunately, you have to kind of have, it's like a really cold night and your power's gone out. One blanket's not enough, unless you got some kind of crazy 10-layer blanket. I mean, you need layers of protection if you're dealing with something that is not this worldly, if that makes sense. Because I realized I was dealing with something that had never been alive. I was dealing with something that had always existed as it was. It was just, it was an imposter. So I left my partner inside while I got my bag, because I still have the bag. While I got my bag that had all of my tools that I needed to do a formal cleansing. And all the while, my partner is inside recording and, actually hearing things as well. So, sorry that my palette got in the way there. I'm using it as my mirror instead of the mirror next to the camera because I see better on this one. Anyway, I go and get my things and I come inside. I'm like, okay, well, here goes nothing. Let's get rid of whatever this is. I'm not playing games with you, bud. When it comes to doing cleansings in particular, confidence is a big part of it. Your faith is a huge part of it. And your belief in yourself. You can't go into it half-heartedly. You can't go into it and be like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'll be fine. No, you actually have to know what you're doing. You actually have to be 110% sure that you are convicted and know exactly what you're going in for, what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and execute it. And you have to execute it correctly the first time. Otherwise, you have to go back and do it again. And I hate repeating myself. I hate having to go back and do work. I like to do things one time and be done. So, I'm quite good at what I do when it comes to expelling things. However, if I'm with someone who is open and vulnerable and I don't realize it, it could be dangerous, which is why I was picky about who I ever worked with. I think that green's pretty, right? I mean, it's Halloween. Anyway, I didn't realize that this particular partner was going through some emotional things, some personal things, and it was actually affecting some of his judgment. I had no idea about any of that. That's not something that we talked about, which is odd because we were very, very close friends, and we used to talk about everything. I mean, honey, he knew my menstrual cycle, which y'all know it right now. It falls on full moon, and of course Halloween's on full moon, so, well, I'm gonna be double padding it up tonight just so that I can enjoy my favorite holiday. Anyway, I mean, when I say we were close, I mean, we were close. So, it's actually surprising after the fact that I found out all the things that were going on. Because if I had known, I would have never in good conscience had him go with me. I would have found someone else, or I would have done it on my own. Because again, you have to be able to go in with a clear mind that can't be corrupted, that can't be exploited. Because it can be dangerous. It's no joke. Especially if you're dealing with something that has never been human. So I go back in. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this shit. Like, all right, cool, y'all. Let's get this over with. I'm ready to go home. This is going to take me, a good hour or so let's just get it over with. Went room by room to push it out. And push it out I did. And by the time I was done, house was clear. Clear as it could be. And I left talismans in the house, as well as outside of the house, to make sure that whatever that thing was, that was very unpleasant, by the way, couldn't come back in. What I did not know, though, is since we took separate vehicles, if we hadn't taken separate vehicles, I might have caught it. We took separate vehicles, and what I pushed out of the house attached itself to my partner. And I didn't see my partner again for a couple of months. Just because of work, life, whatever. We would talk on the phone occasionally. He was becoming more and more withdrawn, which was uncharacteristic for him. And I was actually kind of worried. I believe I even asked him if he was on drugs, if I'm not mistaken. Because his behavior was changing so much. And finally, he came to me for help and let me know that he never wanted to go on another case with me again. I said, well, that's fine, honey. You don't have to. I mean, not a big deal to me. That's your choice. That's whatever. And then he explained why. And he said that since that night, he hadn't been himself. He had caught himself staring into mirrors in his house and seeing a different face. He would wake up because he was hearing voices in his house. He felt like his skin crawled. He was having thoughts that he knew weren't his own. And it was actually something that was quite frightening for him, which would be for anybody, because he has no history of that at all. And he asked me for my help. And I said, okay. So I went to see him, realized what it was. It was what we cleansed from that house. It attached to him, and he was already in the stage of oppression. The family we had helped, they weren't there yet, but this had attached so deeply. It had really sunk its teeth into him that it was enough for it to go, like, it was oppression. It was starting to influence his day-to-day, and his personality. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to take more than a simple cleansing, unfortunately. That meant I needed a plan. I do not like doing that type of spirit or that type of energy work. I do not. It is dangerous, both for the subject, but also for the person that's doing it. It's best if you have a partner that you trust that can do it with you, because you really need that extra energy. Ideally, it's a male and a female. And the Catholics have their way of doing it, and I'm not at all saying the Catholics don't do it well on their way. But if you're pagan, there are ways that you do it as well. And the ways that I learned, it's best to have a male and a female for balance. So it was basically the female can focus the energy while the male can expel the energy type of deal. And it's not easy to find a partner you can trust to do that, because if you are the person, the female, who is honing in on that energy to start pulling it, you have to know, you have to trust that once you get that energy pulled and focused to your male counterpart, they're actually going to push it out. Otherwise, it stays with you. So it's a very dangerous process. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I was just like, well, I got him into this mess. I didn't mean to, but here we are. I guess I got to get him out of it. So some phone calls were made, and a friend came from out of town to assist. that I trusted, and he trusts me, and so that's a good thing. And the process took a long time. We ended up, let's see if this works. We ended up working on our friend for hours. It seemed like, I mean, it was just, it was torturous. It was torturous for everybody involved. Almost as torturous as this damn color I just chose. Or maybe just the brush I used. We'll see. But it's so hard to talk about what we saw, what we felt, how it happened, because it was so draining. It was everything in both of us that we had to pull and push and pull and push this thing that had gone from just an entity that was bothering a family in a house to something that had managed to wiggle its way inside of our friend, who didn't know that he was vulnerable to that until it happened to him. So I had made a box, and I'm sure most of you have heard of Dubik boxes. That's what the Jews used, and it's very similar to that. It was a small box, lined inside. I lined it all in mirrors, and I had painted different seals on said box for when we finally got whatever it was that was in my friend out, and so that we could seal it in there. So I had seals that I put on the outside of the box. I had mirrors for it to reflect back in on itself so it couldn't figure out how to get out. And my friend brought some jet to actually trap it in, because jet is actually very good for exorcism and trapping. So we were as prepared as we could possibly be. And when the time finally came, the person that we were having to pull this out of, he was able to identify exactly where it still was in his body. And when he said that, on it. So I start focusing all of my energy there. Every bit of what I've got is going there. And to pull it, just pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it. Replace it with white light, pull it. And as I was pulling it, my partner could feel how hard I was pulling, and he started focusing on that jet. So the energy he was getting from me, he was focusing it on the jet stone that we had. And when it was over, we knew right away. It was this, the air changed immediately. Our friend sat up and was crying. God, he was crying. But he was crying tears of joy. Like, he was so relieved that this was over, because he said in all of that time, he could see himself. He knew what was going on around him because he could see, but he didn't have any control over anything at all that he was doing, that he was saying. He was distancing himself from everyone. He said that every time that he tried to call me, something made him stop, which explained why I'd stopped hearing from him. And it was weird because at the time we used to talk almost every day. And he told me, every time I wanted to pick up the phone and call you, something in me said, you can't speak to her. No. And wouldn't let him call, like legit just wouldn't let him call. Um, and he said the same thing to the friend that was helping me out, who was also a very close friend of both of ours. And he was crying and just joy because he felt like himself for the first time. And I mean, we had done that case months before this, at least 3 months before this. But just because you clear it out, and I sent the box with our friend, he lived in a different state, and his property was on running water, which is important. I was like, I need you to dispose of this, and I need you to dispose of this in this way. And I gave him specific instructions on how to dispose of what we had just cleansed, because this was the first time he had ever had to do anything like this. And he was like, okay, on it. Because, I mean, he literally has running water in his backyard. And I wanted it not anywhere near our friend. So this box was put in running water, actually buried underneath rocks in the running water 4 hours away. And our friend was good. You know, he was good for a while. But because he had been influenced once that way, it still left him open for it to happen again. Not by the same entity, of course, but that meant he was an open vessel. And so even though I was filling him with light as I was going, you know, as much as I could, all the light that I could, I was giving him every bit of energy I could possibly give him without compromising myself, because you have to protect yourself in these situations as well. He was still in a position of it could happen to him again, because he was considered like an empty vessel that was vulnerable. So a couple of years go by and things start happening to him again. And I had made him talismans, and I told him different things to protect himself. And not only that, I mean, he's a smart man, and he's well-read, and he is quite spiritual. You know, it's not like he's not a non-believer or anything. He's quite spiritual. He's very spiritual. It's just, once you become vulnerable like that, unless you know how to protect yourself properly and continue your good psychic hygiene, you'll open yourself back up again. And he did. And this time, it was one of the demons mentioned in the Book of Demons, you know, the ones that got the names. And I don't even like saying their names, because to give something a name is to give it power. And I'm not making myself vulnerable to it. However, this particular one is a disgusting one. It's not one to really give many gifts. It can give the gift of knowledge. I do know that. And with this particular friend of mine, he is a genius. When he took his MCAT, he was not happy with his score as a 25, which is an exceptional score. That's 25 out of 50, or no, out of 40. He went back and took it again. No, he got a 28, and then he went back and took it again and got a 30, which is unheard of. All the med schools wanted him. He's a genius. So this particular demon, I know, is known for giving knowledge. However, it's also known for being dishonest. And its offerings, it likes your shit. Like your literal shit. Gross, right? So when we talked about it, because we did, he realized something was going on. He said he was having a hard time calling me. He was like, whatever this is, it's like it wants my shit. And it wants me to hurt myself down there, you know, like I don't know what to do. And so with that, I was like, honey, you gotta do the same thing that we did before. You gotta expel it. And we did a cleansing of the property and of him. But then he became more withdrawn. And unfortunately, if you can't come to me for help, I can't help you. You have to be willing to receive that help, if that makes sense. So there came a point where I was just like, well, you're not contacting me. I'm coming here. You're barely speaking to me. It's not just influencing you. I see it's influencing people around you. Let me know when you're ready. Yeah, that's all I can say is just let me know when you're ready and I'll help if I can. Otherwise, I don't know what else to say. So soon after that, his partner started acting kind of different, but not in a bad way. And they ended up going on a different type of spiritual journey than what I'm on. So we, you know, as much as I adore them and would do anything in the world for either one of them, and they both know it, I can't tell you how that story ends. I don't know if he eventually got out of that oppressive state. I hope he has. I know that he decided to take a different path that was very minimalistic and kind of get rid of a lot of his worldly possessions. He's living kind of tiny house style. And he seems happy. So I'm hoping that means that they've figured out what they need to do in that situation. So yeah, that's the story about the time that I went to cleanse a house and accidentally got my friend possessed. And then he got repossessed. Not like a car. So yeah, there's that experience. And I managed to get my eyes done. Because I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing with my face. This is kind of Maleficent looking, right? Yeah. Even though I'm not Maleficent, you know, since the horns are now expected to get here Tuesday. They were supposed to be here yesterday. Anyway, so there's that experience. I'm trying to think of some more. Because again, I got told recently, oh, please, you know, I love hearing about your stuff, you know, and I've heard that from a few people now. So trying to think of some things that I can tell anonymously. One of the houses that my ex-husband and I, well, actually, two of the houses that my ex-husband and I lived in. Oh, there's my cat. Say hi, Ollie. Or don't. Just look at me. Oh, headbutt me. Anyway, two of the houses that my ex-husband and I lived in were haunted as well. But both of them, like, it wasn't a big deal to me anyway. And I don't even know that he noticed it I know that my daughter noticed it in one of them, but I don't think she noticed it in the other. Sorry, I had to adjust. She noticed it in the house that we lived in 5 Points. We had 2 houses that we lived in 5 Points in Athens. And the second house that we lived in was this beautiful old gray house. It was built in the early 20s. Had a clawfoot tub in it. And in that one, there was a female spirit attached to the house. And she just was there. She didn't bother anything. She didn't move anything around. She, every once in a while I would glance up, I'd see her in the kitchen. I don't know if she was just a residual or not. I never tried to talk to her because she never tried to talk to me. I know that Lily didn't like to sleep in her bed. She liked to sleep with me and her daddy, but she'd always been that way. And I was trying so hard to get her to sleep in her bed because I really wanted to sleep in my own bed. I was sick of sleeping on the couch. At that house, I didn't have my own room. I wanted to sleep in my bed. And I had finally gotten her to start sleeping in her room. And then she told me she didn't want to sleep in there anymore. And I mean, she turned 3 there. And she started talking right around that time. And she told me that a lady stared at her in her room. So she actually didn't like to play in her room. She didn't want to sleep in her room. And when she told me a lady stared at her in her room, I was like, okay. She didn't have to sleep in her room. If she didn't want to sleep in her room, she could sleep with me and her daddy, whatever. That's the only time I actually was like, all right, whoever's in here, we can coexist. It's totally fine. You've never bothered anybody, but you have scared my daughter a little bit. So if you would please be so kind as to not stare at my daughter, because it scares her. And Lily, my daughter, never mentioned the lady after that. Not once. So obviously she was respectful enough to do as I asked and not scare my kid. She never bothered my ex-husband at all that I know of. Barry's not an especially open person. So for him to experience something, it has to be a lot like that time with my grandpa. He has to be able to see it, touch it, feel it, smell it. Otherwise, it ain't happening. He doesn't believe it. And not everybody can see spirits, so he didn't believe in any of it. And, children are far more sensitive than adults when it comes to seeing spirits. And to my knowledge, my daughter is not sensitive now, which I'm glad. That's something I'm really glad of. A lot of people think, oh, how cool. You can hear this stuff, you can see this stuff. It's not. There's my cat. It's not cool. It's not something I would recommend at all. I don't even know how to describe it. It's hard. It's hard when you can see things that other people can't. It's hard when you can see those things and other people don't believe you. It's hard when you recoil at the energy of someone else that's coming near you and no one knows why, because they don't feel it. And it's a useful thing in that regard, but it's also, it makes you like us and them, and you're part of the them, which sucks. So I'm pretty stoked at the idea that my daughter's not gifted in that way, because I've never really thought of it as much of a gift. I always joked it was my curse. And I mean, my mom, my grandmother, all the women in my family on my mom's side, with the exception of my sister, she got lucky. We all have it. We don't talk about it. It just is. And again, some people are like, oh my God, that's so cool. If you live with it, if you had to live with it day in and day out, you wouldn't think it's cool or interesting or fun. Because it's not. It makes your life a lot harder. Because, like, you can say, oh my gosh, you know, this person that just walked into this room, this doesn't feel right. I don't want to be in here anymore. And people are looking at you like, okay, crazy. What's your deal? And it's like, well, I don't know what it is, but something ain't right about them. Like, that's someone dirty. Like, that's somebody that'll do you wrong. And they're like, you don't know them or their situation. Stop being crazy. I've gotten that response so many times, y'all. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've heard that. If I feel something, I honor what I feel. And if I feel that something is nasty, I'm out. It's like this house that I live in right now. It is a beautiful old house. It is split into 5 apartments. And the first night I was here, I had something happen. And I had to come to Jesus with whatever's in here. I was like, we can coexist just fine, but I need you to not scare me. That would be great. Because my ukulele was in its case in the corner with nothing around it, and it strummed itself. And I was like, and then I heard a knocking on my bathroom door, and I was like, and then I heard someone knock on my door. And then I went and opened it, nothing there. And I was just like, nah, we're not playing this. I burned some sage. I lit my 7-day white candle. I was like, I'm not playing with you. I will coexist with you just fine. But please do not make the mistake of thinking that I will not get rid of you. If you want to hang out in this house, be cool. And since then, every once in a while, I feel like somebody's watching me in my bedroom. But that's okay. I don't care. They're not bothering me. They're not bothering my cat. I'm fine with it. Stuff in my house does get moved around occasionally. I get frustrated. I say I'm frustrated. And then suddenly, there it is, because I've gotten pissed off. Because my cat can only carry so much. I mean, she does hide stuff from me, but anyway. Trying to think of anything else I can talk about while I'm finishing my face. I mean, I knew that this was going to be long because it's me doing costume makeup. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought about just wrapping a panty around my head and putting blood on it and being a period, since I'm on my period. Oh, what's the fun in that? Do any of you have any fun, like, ghost stories that you want to share? I mean, I would love to hear about them in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's chat it up. I would enjoy it. I just wanted to bring up, like, you know, something a little bit different today, not just your standard haunting, because it is Halloween. And I think that's the first time that I've actually talked about that since it happened. And I want to say that happened in my grandmother was still alive, so it would have been 06, early 07. And please don't ask me for any names or anything like that, because I will read you real quick. You'll get blocked. If we're on friends on social media, we'll probably end up not being friends no more. Because again, I do like to protect the identity of the people that I work with, work for. Their lives are their business. We all have our normal day gigs. We all have our personal lives. And not everybody likes their shit put on blast. And as long as I don't use any names, I'm not putting anybody's shit on blast. If I was using names, it'd be different. And that would just be ugly. I'm not doing it. All right, I can't talk and do my lip liner, so. All right, well, I am thinking this may be my finished look for tonight, y'all. Thank you for coming and listening to another one of my rambling sessions as I talk about ghosts and things and my makeup. So if you enjoy my videos, please like them, subscribe, share, because the more that I get, the more inclined I am to make more. If I don't get a whole lot of views or, likes or whatever, then I'm less inclined to make them because I'm like, well, nobody's watching anyway. I'll do it when I feel like it. But if I actually have people that are paying attention and I know it, then I'm going to be like, oh, I really do need to stay on top of this. So please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave comments. Again, tell me your ghost stories. Tell me about what you are for Halloween this year. I am fixing to start putting together my costume because it is almost 5:30, so that means that I'm going to be leaving soon to go out and torment people. I'll hit my boyfriend first because it's going to make him want to kill everything, and I'm going to love it. So yeah, just give me your Halloween stories. Give me stories that you want me to talk about. Give me ghost stories you want me to research and talk about. I hope that you guys have a great night. Happy Halloween. I love you all. Bye.